American Military University proudly presents Mission San Diego Military, produced by the San Diego Military Advisory Council and Cloudcast Media. San Diego is America's finest military city. From the Marines and Navy to the Coast Guard and Naval Special Warfare, San Diego is a proud military town. Mission San Diego Military will help you better understand how the San Diego military leads, innovates, and cares for community and country. Mission San Diego Military, co-hosted by the CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council, retired Rear Admiral David Boone, and Drew Schlossberg with Cloudcast Media, begins right now.
I'm Drew Schlossberg of Cloudcast Media and the co-host of Mission San Diego Military, a podcast series generously sponsored by the American Military University, a leader in educating military and their families since 1993. Honored to have as our co-host with me, David Boone, President and CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council, better known as STMAC. David is a retired Navy Rear Admiral, and our Mission San Diego Military podcast is produced by Cloudcast Media. Honored to have in the studio with us today longtime friend and colleague Ashley Camac. She is the CEO of Zero8Hundred, joined by her colleague Tracy Owens. She's a senior programs manager for supporting the Enlisted Project. Welcome, Ashley and Tracy.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
David, it's all yours.
Hey, before we get into the program, I want to brag about these two ladies a little bit. So Ashley obviously runs a very important nonprofit to our community, but she's also a Navy spouse, and he is now a civil service employee on furlough.
He is.
And so Ashley shares with me that she can finally get household chores done
Every day.
because
Every
he's
single day.
on furlough. But Ashley recently won a very prestigious award. Could you share that?
Yeah, it's the Spirit of Hope awardee, and this was given out in September of 2025. What was the award for?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. So Zero8Hundred was awarded the Spirit of Hope Award, which is a Department of Defense award where one recipient is announced for each branch. So our nomination was actually submitted in April of 2025, and it was based around the work that we do in suicide prevention and case management services for the transitioning service members and their families.
Right. So was a certain branch that was it the Navy?
So we represent the United States Navy.
Very, very good.
Booyah.
Very good. So go ahead, David.
Well, and then Tracy, she's a retired lieutenant commander. And in addition to her full-time job at STEP, she's the president of the San Diego Navy League. And as if that wasn't enough to keep her busy, they recently planned and organized the 250th anniversary Navy Ball, which was weekend before last. I had the pleasure of attending. 1,200 people. So you organize a party for 1,200 people and see how you do. And our SWO boss, Vice Admiral McLean, was a guest speaker, and it was a great event. So really appreciated your work there.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, well, those two, anybody who's known them in the community, they're both organizations are just doing great things and have been for many, many years, and elevating, certainly those folks active and our veterans and anything that is a touch point, with that. But I know, David, one of the cool things about this group, and really kudos to you, talk about the Emergency Action Group. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's interesting because over a year ago, when the federal government was first contemplating budget challenges last September, we started thinking about what if there was a government shutdown a year ago? And how could we better support our military and veteran community? And so there were 5 organizations that got together. Of course, STMAC, these two organizations, Zero8Hundred and STEP, and then Feeding San Diego and Armed Services YMCA. We all got in the room and started talking through, could we work better together than independently? And we actually started doing some planning. And then, lo and behold, in May of this year, we had the airplane crash in a military neighborhood, Murphy Canyon area. And that was the first time we operationalized what became known as the EAG, or Emergency Action Group. And, we were on that day moving very quickly, coordinating our activities. I was connected directly with the commanding officer. By 2:30 that afternoon, the commanding officer, Captain Healy, calls me. He says, "Turn off the spigot. I can't take any more," in terms of additional supplies and support on that day. And so that kind of was the proof in the pudding that we were better together than as individual organizations. And now we've leaned forward into the government shutdown, which we'll talk about some more later.
Right, exactly. So I'll start with you on this one, Ashley. What was the role in this plane crash that everyone knows happened in the sort of the Tierra Center area? And then we'll ask Tracy what their role was.
What was the role of 0-800?
Exactly.
Okay. So I think to David's points, when we organized the Emergency Action Group, we clearly did not know that this was going to happen. We were very focused on government shutdowns, which we're currently in. I think the role beforehand in coordinating is really important to mention, because that role was to really identify who does what, how we do things maybe in a similar fashion, but what's the distinctive difference within each of our agencies. So the role that day that 0-800 played was instantly connecting to David as our kind of leader that we identified. I don't know if he was, I need to be that person, but we were fairly young in our planning. So connecting with him and saying, listen, we can be on site. We can help get communication out through media channels, through our partners, through the community, through people like yourself, and be able to say, this is what is needed, this is what is not needed, and be able to really work with those commanding officers to say, hey, we still have a need or we don't. We're then also able to partner with the other community entities to bring them in and say, yes, we do need you, because though there's 5 identified organizations in the Emergency Action Group, none of us can clearly do everything that's needed in a plane crash incident, right? So that coordination of interagency opportunities and being boots on the ground so that agencies like STEP and such can do what they're doing. I think 0-800 stepped in to say we can be the case managers, we can collect data, we can collect impact, we can have social workers on site, we can do trauma, very critical need, like in the moment type of support, and then we can do long-term case management, but really just then taking a look at like what did happen, what are the lessons learned, how were we reactive, how did we plan, what do we need to change, and really continue to build this from what the concept was.
Right, so if I'm not mistaken, the plane crash happened relatively early in the morning, correct?
Yes.
And you got the call from David, or who gave you the first call?
Well, technically, I think we're all learning that the plane has crashed. Okay. And I think because we were so young, I sent text to David. Okay. But in the same moment, he's sending messages out, and every variation of who texted who and who called who is there and present, probably in the same minutes that we're all learning it's happening. So I think in future, we would probably learn differently. But in that moment, that's how that happened.
Oh, you're building the ship while you're sailing, for God's sake.
Which is always not fun.
Yes. Well, listen, that's what but you guys have the skill sets to do that. Yeah. How about you, Tracy? When did you get the call?
It was early that morning.
Right.
Got to the call, said, hey, we need these items down at the evacuation site, and we were able to mobilize quickly and get that done. Meanwhile, we were talking amongst each other to kind of develop the plan. For Support the Enlisted Project, our mission is emergency financial support through our financial wellness program. So we helped stop the immediate loss with baby supplies, diapers, clothing, all of the items that were requested from Naval Base San Diego. We were able to reach out to the community, go into our warehouse, and get those items down to the families.
It was a unique event in that, one of our partners is ASYMCA. And so at one point, we thought we might mobilize there, but it turns out they were in the crash zone, their footprint, right? And so the Navy leadership was trying to decide where do we put our logistics point, and it eventually went to 2 schools. And so that communication coming back through me out to our partners in the nonprofit community helped to unify our effort to the right place at the right time. And that was the power of the group.
Yeah, I mean, no pun intended, but you talk about a true baptism of fire. I mean, literally, what you guys were up against. You just formed the group, and now all of a sudden, well, we're going to see if this thing works, right? In this area. I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media, and co-host of the Mission San Diego Military podcast series, generously sponsored by American Military University. They've been educating in the military and their families since 1993. So thrilled to have as a co-host with me, David Boone, the President and CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council, and the podcast is brought to you by Cloudcast Media. Chatting with Ashley Camac, CEO of 0800, and Tracy Owens. She is the Senior Programs Manager for STEP. David, I mean, obviously, this is an unbelievable event that happened, but now it's the shutdown, correct? So what does
now it's the shutdown.
So what does EAG do now?
So beginning in September, we reconvened the EAG, seeing where the politics was going, anticipating, hoping for the best, but planning for the worst, right? And we reconvened and started talking about how do we support our both military and I'll say civil service federal workers. Many of them are veterans that are impacted. And so we identified specific services that each of the organizations provide, and we created a website, kind of a one-place go-to website where you could get from each of these organizations what services they provide, and for military, what the situation was for them administratively, for civil service, and we've continued to push that information out, as well as communicate with our local military commanders. If they need direct support, we can provide that. So that's how we lean forward into this event.
Right. I'll start with you on this. Tracy, you certainly mentioned about the finances that you folks work with, but like every nonprofit in the history of the world, you need to have support, certainly monetary support. But talk about the volunteers that work with you.
So our organization is built on our partners and volunteers. The support during the plane crash incident was absolutely amazing, and we're seeing that same type of support now. Just recently, we hosted 2 distributions. One with the Coast Guard through the EAG last week. Had a great turnout for that. We had one this past weekend at our office, our warehouse, and we had over 400 families sign up for that. All of those things take volunteer support, so and there's always an opportunity to get more volunteers, so we can put a plug in for that too.
Yeah, there's never a shortage of volunteers, and I know, Ashley, you and I have talked about that before. Talk about the volunteers that work with 0800.
I mean, it takes a community effort. It takes a team effort to do anything that we're doing. We saw that when the plane crashed. You put a call out to people and say, I just need help. They're going to go to their trusted agents and advisors such as STEP and 0800 and many other nonprofits in the community to say, well, if you said so, the need must be there. I think without volunteers, nonprofits can't thrive. That's the basis of that. However, in an emergency, you're going to see many step up. Corporate volunteers, individuals. During the plane crash, one of the things we were helping with on site, all these agencies, the amount of donations coming through where the commander did say, hey, can you kind of shut that off? It was overwhelming because people want to give. Their heart is to give and help solve the problem. And the problem they're helping to solve is to know the community's with you. And by being with you, they'll donate their clothes, they'll donate money, and they'll donate their time. So without that, we wouldn't have been able to sift through the thousands of items that we both received. And then what we ended up doing is filtering it back to STEP, right? 0800 is not established to be an agency that has programs like a food distribution or a warehouse, and we're never going to grow into that, at least as long as I'm the leader. We're going to direct it back to the agencies who do that. So when we got these donations, we're like, hey, let's get them to one central site, and STEP was one of those individuals. So without volunteers, we would still be counting those donations. So we thank them. We pitch for more help because there's going to be an emergency. We can't work around that, but we know the community will step up through our organizations to help make things work.
Yeah, Tracy?
I think one of the most inspiring things about seeing the volunteers come together, they had such heart and such passion, and they just truly wanted to make a difference for our families that were affected by the fire. I contacted one of our lead volunteers, Miss Joni Warnke, and reached out to her early, like 6:30 in the morning, and said, hey, this is what happened. We need the vans packed up. And she literally left her house and started packing vans and mobilizing volunteers to support this effort.
Yeah, right. David?
One of the powers of the EAG is we don't care who gets the credit. We don't care who gets the donation. People sometimes have habitual relationships with one nonprofit or the other, and that's fine. And we all work together to support each other. And as long as it's about the team and not about an individual, that's really the power of the group. So it's really been a pleasure to work with.
Right. Talk a little bit about the SDMAC mission. You've been the president and CEO for a little while now, and so forth. And I've been honored and lucky to have been involved with SDMAC for quite a while. But you folks are just continuing to grow, never stop, always moving forward. Kudos to your predecessors, of course, and a great board and folks like Ashley and Tracy. But talk a little bit about that.
Well, very simply, our mission is to advocate for military veterans and their families. It's really that simple. In execution, it's much more complicated. And across the community, a lot of people know us for the monthly speaker series breakfasts that we put on, but we do so much more than that. Probably 2/3 of my time is focused on legislative engagement, trying to change policy for the benefit of both our military veteran and families. And those are long-term objectives that take a focused effort. Headed back to Sacramento this week for that reason. We do an annual economic report on the impact of defense on our regional community. We host a number of receptions to pull people together. We're connectors in the community. We host foreign government officials. We've had people from Australia, Japan, Korea, Australia that have a particular interest in national security in the Pacific. So we do a lot of different things, and it all centers around advocacy for military veterans and their families.
Yeah, one of the things I think I applaud you, as you know, I spent many years at the San Diego Union Tribune and Community and Public Relations. And what I was so impressed, as you continue to grow from the Larry Blumbergs to the Randy Bogles, and Mark Ballmer, and now yourself, you have really elevated the relationship between the military and the community and demystified, what that is. And everyone would think, well, I can't get close to the military. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. Well, you folks have done a great job on that. I'll start with you on this, Tracy, and then you can add to it, Ashley. Talk about your work with the folks that are just in the civilian community in those groups.
So we work very closely with our civilian counterparts for partnerships, sponsorships, and just helping us spread awareness of our STEP programs. We build those relationships and see where they can grow. We always we have a saying, find your way to yes, and we're always open to new partnerships, seeing how we can collaborate with that one goal in mind of bringing resources and support to our military community. and our families.
Yeah, and like Tracy Ashley, I've known you for a while when you worked for the USO, if I'm not mistaken, with Lauren. But it's all about relationships, whether it's relationships with military related groups or with civilian groups. Talk about that.
I think you really have to just constantly look outside the box, because you could get really focused on your silo and you can do really well in that and have your funders, your volunteers, and your program. But when you look outside the box, you can serve your people so much better. There's always a unique way to build upon what you're doing. And I think casting the net far and wide across the county really helps your nonprofit grow. I think the work we do on the civilian side at 0800 and through our partnership and why we're so connected to SDMAC is the people being served at 0800 are going into the civilian sector. So they want to learn, they want to hear, they want to be a part and integrate it into the community at large, something they really probably weren't focused on much while they were serving in uniform. So being able to go out and see what David and his group are doing, be able to participate in that, share data, share information, do advocacy, go, and help spread the word within county supervisors and mayors and all these different people really help everybody understand that we're all working together for the better good. And whether it's a bill that David and his team are trying to help push in Sacramento, it's going to affect the people that we're serving. We're talking about how they want to stay here and they want to be in San Diego, but we also talk about the pain points of why that's hard. And if we don't cast that net far and create partnerships that really can make a difference, then we're doing it wrong. I think nonprofits were formed, I've been saying this a lot lately with the government shutdown, but nonprofits were formed to do the work that government can't do. And so we're living in that present day. And so it's a constant reminder that we have to work within the community and the civilian sector to really help these military and veterans thrive.
Military families are the backbone of our nation's strength. At American Military University, we believe in supporting those who support our country. And that support isn't just for active duty service members, it's for entire military families. Whether you're a parent, spouse, legal partner, sibling, or dependent, you can access our preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level tuition. American Military University, education that honors service. Learn more at amu.apus.edu/military.
One of the things I wanted to explore in our conversation, what are you seeing as a result of the government shutdown in terms of trends in your support requirements? The military got a payday last week. They don't know if they're going to get the next payday. Our civil service employees haven't been paid. There's a threat of even firing or not paying back furloughed debts to the civil service community. How do you think what's the trend look like in terms of how people are feeling and your level of support to those families?
I think families are feeling stress and anxiety. They're not sure about their next payday. And for a family that's living payday to payday, that can be very taxing. So we are seeing an increase in the number of clients that we're taking in and those applications for financial assistance. And through that program, we'll work with that family long term to help them reach a place of financial wellness. We're still working with some of the families from the plane crash to help them build that long-term financial plan that will set them up for future success. In addition to that, our local community programs, we're also distributing more food, working closely with Feeding San Diego, part of the EAG as well, to ensure we have what the community needs. So increasing numbers. For instance, we were 300 signups for the distribution on this past Saturday, but within 24 hours, it went up 150 more families. So we saw a really big turnout. But again, we couldn't do these types of programs without the local community coming together to make it happen.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ashley. Add to that, please.
Yeah, I think stress and frustration. So I'm out here having this conversation. I'm speaking to many leaders within the community of what we're seeing, what the trends are, the case management services, the increase in enrollments. And when we conduct baseline mental health screenings, the stress factor is very high. And then that ripple effect that it's going to have long term is going to mean that they're anxious, worried, fearful for quite a bit of time. If you're not able to make a payment, that's a ripple effect because that can affect your credit. Those late payments aren't helpful. Like, there's all these extenuating things that happen. And then I go home and I'm reminded that my veteran is on day 20 of furlough. And so I've spent the entire day in the community working very hard to say, let's do this, let's get behind that, let's make sure everybody knows what all the services are. And though financially we're okay, I look at him and he's like, I just want to go to work. I can't, right? And so then what you see is like, well, what's next for me? What do I want to do? Do I want to be doing this? Like, there's just a lot of like soul searching happening. And then of course, jokingly, you can get these to-do lists done and you're like, well, let's see what the silver lining is. And maybe this is a time where you can learn about yourself and just kind of have a little bit of a reprieve from like the day-to-day, function that we do. But it's a reminder that our federal workers are about to go on a no pay period at this point. Our military did get paid. There's a lot of advocacy around trying to make sure that they're paid again. But our federal workers had one paycheck with 3 days of work eliminated from that paycheck. So they were short on their first paycheck that was hit on October 3rd. And now this Friday, they would have zero funds in that account. That you're going to now see a different answer to what you're asking me. It's the fear and anxiety, but now it's reality. So now it's going to be the ripple effect of, did I miss a payment? Is that going to affect, my car or whatever? And the fact that we don't know what their standing was when they walked into it could be even worse than what we think a missed payment could be. So I think this is not something that will end anytime soon for them. And thankfully, there are agencies out there that can support long term, but we're going to see a different answer to your question over time.
Drew, one of the things I'm very proud of Ashley and 0800 is in their suicide prevention programs. What are you seeing in that space, Ashley?
Yeah, you see we have to do baseline mental health screenings with our suicide prevention program. So we use the Columbia Severity Scale. We use the PHQ-9s. We're inputting data, but we're looking at that data and we're seeing that those scores are higher than they were, right? When you have a transitioning service member or just a family in need, you can see anxiety go up, right? But what you're seeing is that fear of the unknown, which is increasing it higher and then staying there longer. So we are monitoring that very closely. I would be remiss to say that we haven't seen a critical case. That absolutely is happening right now. I'm not going to tell you that it's happening once an hour. That's not true, right? But it certainly is a few times a week where you have somebody who just genuinely is being checked on, has an appointment, and they're hitting a point where they're like, you know what, I just don't know what more I can do. And a financial crisis can also lead to a mental health crisis. And though there's a lot of, vocabulary out there that finances are not the number one cause of suicide, right? We don't know. Genuinely, we oftentimes do not know why somebody completed the act of suicide. But then if you start to deep dive into things, it's a collection of stuff, and finances can take you over that threshold. So if they're having a long-standing effect from a government shutdown or just crisis after crisis, right? I mean, you think about our Murphy Canyon families, they had a plane crash and 4 months later we're in a government shutdown. So that's a lot of stress in 1 year in a very short amount of time. So you're going to see these trends kind of stay very high in the baseline mental health screening, and the critical clinical services needed is there's an uptake in it.
Something I want to remind people, and I do this every chance I get, we have 110,000 active duty military in the region. A lot of that population is deployed overseas. So they're halfway around the world. Their families are back here. So how do you think that person, that military member, is doing if they're not getting a paycheck for their spouse and 3 kids back at home? So this is a military readiness issue as much as anything. And we see that with the people we serve.
Yeah, well, and imagine to the folks who are deployed, right? And they're going, okay, I'm in pick a topic, Afghanistan, Persian Gulf, wherever. And my goodness, there's a shutdown here. And what's going to happen? They have to be on mission. You guys know that better than anybody. It can't be deviating too much from mission, right? And be thinking about that stuff. So, Tracy, what advice do you give to people like that?
To take advantage of the resources that are available to them, to make sure that we're out there doing our piece to make sure that the military community knows that we're here and that we're standing by them. That is probably one of the biggest things, is to know what resources are available to you. We work really hard on that throughout the year, getting out with military leadership, getting to build relationships in those places so that they know that these resources are available to them, as well as getting out in front of the military community through pre-deployment briefs and INDOC and all the different ways to get our mission out there, get the resources available, and what they can do if they find themselves in a financial crisis, and where they can turn.
Right. I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media and the co-host of Mission San Diego Military with David Boone, the co-host. He's the president and CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council and a retired Rear Admiral. The show is brought to you by the American Military University, generously sponsoring this show, and a leader in educating our military and their families since 1993. Mission San Diego Military is produced by Cloudcast Media. So we've talked about challenges, okay, and so forth. So for our audience out there, I'll start with you on this, Ashley. What can we do to support 0800?
What an amazing question.
We got 3 hours.
I have 3 hours. All right, let's get started. Here's my PowerPoint. I think really taking a look at, what do you do? How do you support your community just every day? You work at a company, you volunteer, you're a great community leader. Whatever it is your role is, think about how you can connect into the nonprofit space. We know we have over 13,000 nonprofits in San Diego, so there's somebody waiting for you. If it's not one of us at the Emergency Action Group and it's not 0800, it's somebody, and it's somebody that we're probably connected to. So finding a way to connect into a mission. We're a social work model. If you're a social worker, that sounds like the ideal space, right? But if you're a company who wants to hire veterans, you're in the workforce development space. If you're a philanthropist who wants to, provide funds to support that, if you are working at a university, wherever it is you're working, you kind of have landed, there's a spot for you at 0800. There's a spot, I'm sure, at all of the Emergency Action Group organizations and some. But really taking a look at what you do and what you're connected to, and bring your talent, your treasure, and your time to any of our agencies, because we'd welcome you with open arms.
That's great. Tracy?
I think that that's a good point. Any position we have at Support the Enlisted Project, we can have a volunteer assist with that position. So whether it's administrative skills or helping us load up, we're packing and moving this week, so we have a lot of volunteers in. If it's labor, if it's helping us set something out in the community engagement, I agree with Ashley on that. We're not state or federally funded, so all of our donations come in from private donors, corporations, and grants. So to fund our financial wellness counseling program, we're always accepting donations for that, and that can be done online. In-kind donations, gently used, and in-kind goods that can go out to military families, corporations that we partner with. We're always looking for donations from large corporations to get those items out to military families, and just giving us your time, coming to see how we can collaborate and build a partnership and a relationship.
Yeah, and I think, David, maybe you can address how, these two great organizations support the military, support the Enlisted Project and 0800. How does that tie beautifully into the mission of SDMAC?
Well, we are all about connecting people and organizations. That's what we do. And again, it's for the advocacy of military veterans and families. So the EAG is a perfect example where we brought in some key partners, and we're connected, and actually we're linked at the hip with both Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. They saw what we did during the airplane crash, and now they want us to be as much a part of them as their own staff. So that's a great indicator that we're of value, and we're going to keep refining what we do. We have conversations all the time about how can we get better. We've talked about challenges if we had a wide-scale disaster on the scale of the LA wildfires. How would we do that? That's a enormous requirement. It would be an enormous requirement beyond the capacity of our 5 organizations. So how do we reach back into the nonprofit community to get the support functions that we have technical expertise on? So we're continuing to have conversations amongst us and with our military leaders about how do we continue to evolve and mature our relationship and how we provide capacity. But the EAG is just one example of how we are better together than alone.
Right.
And so we want to continue to harbor that kind of relationship across the community.
Is the goal to grow the EAG?
The goal is to grow capacity in the EAG. And maybe that's growing the individual members, or maybe it's growing the reach back. They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Right, exactly. Ashley, any final comments?
I think I'm very appreciative of the emergency action group and just everybody who really came together well before these most recent emergencies to say, we got to plan something. There's a lot of work that is done within the Department of War, within the County of San Diego. All of that kind of comes together, but community like the emergency action group really can fit what is gapped. And I think just watching what our conversation was a year ago and remembering to tell the community we're still young. So when you ask, like, how can people help? Bring your expertise. Come join the emergency action group for a meeting and share your ideas, because though you might not have to be the doer, you can certainly provide your expertise to get this to the next stage. And we're just appreciative of everybody who came together and still is together. We clearly work better together. And I think this proved that. And I'm just grateful to have the emergency action group right now.
And more good stuff ahead. How about you, Tracy? Any final comments?
I think that I started off with this. We're just fortunate to be in San Diego County and to have so many great organizations that want to come together to support our military service members, veterans, and their families. We're fortunate for that, and the opportunity to connect during times of crisis and even when there's not, to support our military families. It just really means a lot to me personally, and it allows me to continue my service in another way.
Great.
I have one more thing to add along those lines.
Please.
I think it's really important that we demonstrate as an EAG what we can do together at this particular moment in time when the country's so divided. We want to show the power of connectedness as opposed to divisiveness. And I think we're able to demonstrate that.
Well, we all know when we're connected, we row a lot faster, a lot quicker, and get to whatever that mission is on this. So Ashley Camac and Tracy Owens, thank you so much for all the great work that both of your respective organizations are doing, especially with the EAG. And we know there's going to be other groups that are going to want to, join or work with you shoulder to shoulder on that. David Boone, thank you for sharing the insights on EAG. We're going to continue that conversation in a bit.
Yep.
I'm Drew Schlossberg of Cloudcast Media and co-host with David Boone of Mission San Diego. Military podcast generously sponsored by the American Military University. Been educating our military and their families since 1993, and we hope you enjoyed the interview.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Mission San Diego Military. presented by American Military University, an educational leader for active duty military, veterans, and their families. Mission San Diego Military is produced by the San Diego Military Advisory Council in partnership with Cloudcast Media, the national leader in local podcasting. We're sure you learned quite a bit about why San Diego is America's finest military city. Please like, subscribe, and share the show.
Cloudcast Media.